people felt the responsibility that came with having wealth and being well off to share and to help others.
Good afternoon and welcome. Delighted to be joined this afternoon by the Director General of the Fondation de Luxembourg, Tonika Hirdman. Tonika, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Fantastic to have you with us.
Well, I'm pleased to be here.
Now, Tonika, firstly, can you give me one example of a foundation that's been created within your umbrella over the last, say, couple of years?
Certainly. Well, we have so many to choose from, but if I have to choose one, it's perhaps the very first foundation we created, which is the Education and Integration for All Foundation. And that was created by a Belgian businessman. He had the opportunity to work a few years in Africa when he was younger as an auditor. And when he came back to Europe, he felt the huge differences in living conditions between these two continents. So later on in life, when he had made a lot of money, he decided to take action to improve the living conditions of young children, vulnerable children in Namibia. And so the project that he has been supporting through his foundation over the last 14 years is a project which consisted of creating 10 schools for orphans whose parents were affected by AIDS. And once these schools were created, the foundation supports the teachers' allowances and also a revenue generating program. The idea is that once this revenue generating activity is up and running, the network will be able to support themselves and the foundation will go on to support other projects.
And is the person that made that foundation, are they typical of the kind of people that create them?
Well, we have so many different types of founders. Now, this is one typical type of founder, a businessman, an entrepreneur who had a lot of success in his professional life and who decided to take action together with his family. So in this case, he visits the project regularly together with his adult children. But we also have, of course, people who are of a certain age. Sometimes they don't have children and they want to make sure that their money is used for something useful, something that is close to their heart, leaving a legacy. And then we have also people who have been engaged in philanthropy for generations, who have inherited wealth, for instance, and who see a philanthropic foundation as a way also of educating their children as responsible citizens.
You must be very good at putting rich people at ease. Is that true?
I never thought about that, but I do recognize that the people that we deal with are usually very interesting people. They are easy to please because those are people who have reflected profoundly of what is important in life and what they want to leave behind. And I always think it's very inspiring to be able to support them.
Now, why is this happening in Luxembourg?
Well, the idea originally came from the private banking sector. It was actually one of the private banks here, Banque de Luxembourg, who noticed an increased interest among their clients to engage in philanthropy. And they started a lobbying towards the government because they thought this kind of infrastructure should be created by the Luxembourg government. And so in 2008, in a conference that was organized, Jean-Claude Juncker, the then Prime Minister of Luxembourg, launched the idea to create an umbrella foundation in Luxembourg, simply to facilitate for people to engage in philanthropy.
And more or less, how many foundations have been created now?
Well, last year we had a very nice milestone. We created our 100th foundation, and
wow.
Today we have created 109 foundations, and very soon we will have our 110th.
Wow. I mean, this has become quite big. Did you expect it to become this big when you took on the role?
Well, I strongly believed in it, actually. I thought there was a real potential in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone into it. But I think there were a lot of people who hesitated and who had a doubt whether it would really take off, not least the government. Because at the time, if you remember, in 2008, 2009, there was a crisis. There was a crisis in the whole world, but especially in Luxembourg also. And people simply thought, why would people start giving money away? They are losing their money. But actually it was the opposite. People felt the responsibility that came with having wealth and being well off to share and to help others.
Now, what about need? What I mean is, when I look at the world, it can be a bit overwhelming in terms of what the real needs are. And then somehow you get these people coming to you and they say, well, we're interested to support cause X. How do you match the kind of causes that people want to support with the real global need that you see?
Well, it's important to understand that the objective of the foundation, the purpose of the foundation, comes from the donors. It's not we who tell them what they should support. They should come with their ideas and their wishes, and then we help them to realize that. But of course, they usually have quite broad ideas of what they want to support, and we help them to put these resources into where the real needs are. But they decide on the domain, the area, the field that they should support.
Now, it's really interesting that we're speaking about this, because I think Luxembourg has a mixed reputation when it comes to philanthropy. What I mean is that somehow I hear the government being generous, but I'm not always so sure that Luxembourgers are a generous nation. Do you agree?
Well, I agree that the Luxembourg government is very generous. It's one of the few countries who reach 1% of GDP in development aid. And I have to say that there is also a history of sharing and giving among the ordinary Luxembourgers, which is very profound. However, there's not a history of setting up foundations here. So our first donors, they were not Luxembourgers, they were foreigners. It's only since 5 years that the Luxembourgers start to come to us now that they see that it's what it's about.
So you're saying that this is fundamentally driven by donors. Do you have to actively reach out to find new donors?
Well, it's not that we go and knock on the doors of people and ask them to create a foundation, not at all. It's rather that we work closely with the private banking sector, with family offices, with law firms, to make sure that they know that this solution exists in Luxembourg. And they then come with their clients who have demonstrated an interest in philanthropic engagement, and they introduce their clients to us.
And if you're optimistic, if we were having this conversation, say in 2 or 3 years' time, is the curve going to continue like this?
Definitely, definitely. I see it so clearly, especially since COVID. We see increasing interest to create foundations and to engage in structured philanthropy. And I'm absolutely sure that the younger generation is even more interested in sharing and in contributing to good causes.
Tonika Hirdman, the Director General of the Fondation du Luxembourg, thank you very much.
Thank you.